Hey guys, welcome back to the Ride Right Waxing UK One Wheel channel. Back on the Mini, so a bit more work to do. Been really toying with this Hell Performance oil cooler kit, which I've got, on where to mount it. A lot of people mount it on the side. I want something a little bit different, obviously for the engine. So I'm going to mount this. I'm going to put some bracketry on here. As you can see, I've got a template cut out just here. Now, a lot of you will go, why are you mounting it there? Now, I'm going to mount it there for two reasons. I'm going to bolt it through from the other side. So I'm going to cut the hole to let the air come through. Or I may even just bolt it from this side like so. But I'm going to cut a hole in my inner wing. And the reason for that is I'm going to get one of these made up in carbon fibre. And I'm going to try and get that so I can mount it. And we're going to air scoop it. And then obviously kind of make it so it fits into a whole chamber, so it covers the whole of the oil cooler and fits in there. And we've got an air scoop straight onto the oil cooler that feeds it straight into the wheel arch. That's the plan. And you know what plans do? Go wrong. So, well, we're going to give it a go. I want something a bit different. I haven't seen anybody do this, so that's the reason why I want to try it. So I'm just going to work this out. I'm going to pop it on time lapse. I've got this bad boy. I've cut loads of my car up, so I might as well cut another hole. And I've got this big air scoop hole, which I'm not using, which basically is that scoop that goes in there that feeds the hot air that goes into the heater. I have no heater. I've welded up that hole on the inside and drilled two holes in my bulkhead for the studs for the brake reservoir, which you'd have seen in the last video when I built my drive shafts, which I've had 3D printed. Awesome Bonnie Mini. If you want to go, of course, Swedish guy building an R32 or an Audi setup, a bit like Binky. Absolutely awesome channel, great engineering. Way better than what I'm doing. I'm cutting a hole, so anybody can cut a hole. I've got to get on and start basically getting this Mini into a rolling shell. I've got another car coming. I've actually bought my first ever car, other than this one when I was 16. And yeah, quite excited about that, to be honest, which you'll see later on in a few more videos. I'm going to get on and cut this hole out. There we go, one square hole. I actually thought this hole was round. It's actually kind of like elongated. I actually thought it was a perfect circle. Look at that. It really is not. It's oval. But yet, that's round. Doesn't really make sense because that's the bit I cut off the neck. I suppose it squeezes it and holds it in place, maybe? Don't know. But that does not look round. Anyway, there we go. So I'm going to tidy this up and just linish it back. And then we'll start trial fitting the brackets. I'm going to weld some strengthening on the back of here. So don't worry for you people going, that's going to be really weak. I'm not going to roll it. So I've got some metal bar, which I'm going to weld down on the inner side of this and tack it in. And then we're going to weld up these holes here and then we can tidy all this up. Top's quite strong, but we're going to strengthen this bottom bit definitely, and then that way then the oil cooler will be really stout on there. So we're going to drill that through, pilot hole that, and get that sorted. So I'm going to cut the metal, make the bracketry first to fit the oil cooler mounting bracket, and then once that's done we can weld it, dry fit it, weld it in, tack it in, then drill through the rest of it and off we go. That's the plan. So we've got to say, I've got a little bit more welding to do, got a few more bits inside. I think I am going to solid mount my my seat rails as well to the floor, because currently they bolt through the floor. So I'm going to solid mount those. So I'm going to work out some captive nuts and stuff. And I have actually taken off, let me just quickly show you my wheel arches. Now, sadly, I don't know if you can see, I cracked my carbon fibre wheel arch there. So I'm sending these back to Carbon Weasel, and he's going to just put some strengthening and sort that out for me, which is a real shame. So yeah, I've got to get that sorted out. I've also got to get the rear one done as well. So would you believe both that side, I think something's fallen over and hit it. Actually, that's a lie. One of these was at a car show. Somebody knelt on my wing with their knee and it just popped it and cracked it, which was a real shame. The back one, I think I actually did, which is a pain. But anyway, Ben's going to sort me out with those, which is really, really cool. And yeah, so I'm just trying to get things back to a point where I'm ready to rock and roll. So guys, stay tuned and we'll get on, tidy this up. So on to day 2. I'm going to do some detailing today. So I'm going to fill in the gear lever hole, flatten that down. I'm going to drill the hole for the gear selector to go through for the CAD quick shift. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a picture of that measurement from the steering rack hole from hole to hole and down where you would drill the hole, just up here on the screen. And I'll put the link for that video in the description below. We've got the steering column, which is all welded in. I've got to do a bracket off of that to mount the carbon dash. So I've got some central support. Because it goes across quite flat, there's actually quite a big void behind here, and I don't want it flopping around and flipping around, especially if I've got switches and that into it. So I'm going to reinforce that part of the dash as well. I may even do an L-shaped bracket, and then I'll just do one captive nut. So I'll have a fixing there, and either side behind the roll cage. If anybody is after a roll cage, I'm going to get rid of this roll cage as well. And put a diagonal split roll cage in and get that repainted. So that's something that's going to be on my to-do list moving forward, because I do like the hexagonal. I don't use a back seat. So I will have a rear part of the roll cage. I'm still going to keep the front part in, the top bar, but I'm going to put that diagonal split in. I might even just weld a bar in, take that out and repaint it. But I think I'll go to... I'm trying to think who's called safety devices and get the roll cage. I've got to tidy up over here for the gear select for the oil cooler, do some fettling inside the bulkhead, sand down this. I will then remove, once I've drilled the hole, the steering rack, which is just down there because that's been cleaned and painted and tidied up, because I need the measurements of the bolts. And then going to look to try and mount the washer wiper motor in the inside of the car using this hole just here. I have the wiper linkage. I've got to work out the measurement, how much to cut and weld that, so we can get that through as well. So lots to do. I don't know if I'm going to get it all done in this episode, but that's where we are. I'm going to pop you on some time lapse, just purely because I've got one day off work and I need to try and make as much headspace and headway as possible. I've got to clean up underneath that inner wheel arch, and I've got to jack the car up, drain the fuel out the fuel tank. And as you notice, I've taken the carbon wheel arches off, which are just here, and they're going back to carbon weasel because I have a crack in 2 of them, and I don't know how, but I've scratched this one here. So carbon weasel's kindly going to repair those, obviously at a cost, which is good of him. And away we go. So guys, yeah, I'm going to pop you on time lapse, and we're just going to get on and burn through and get as much done as possible so we can get ready for the final stage of welding. Then we've just got to tidy that weld up, and then I can paint all the floor inside, all the bulkhead inside, and obviously paint underneath the bonnet. Before I do that though, painting, I will need to dry fit because I've got to sort out the accelerator cable from that stupid brake conversion that I've done from Brake Components, which is not a direct fit. And I've got some tubing to go in there to mount the speedo cable, but I've got to make sure I've got the clearance for the subframe underneath that bolts up between where the cable's going to come out or not. So we're going to put a nice curved bendy tube, so we've got a nice flow for the accelerator cable off the pedal. Right, and breathe. Here we go. Let's crack on and start detailing. Right, just before I go to time lapse, I've just marked out there on the floor. So from the nut, edge of the side of the nut to the line is 14.6 centimeters, and then from that line, from that direct line across to each nut from there to there, it's a 9 centimeters down. And you can see, if I quickly zoom in, where that sits, and you can see how elongated that hole is. So I'm going to lineage all that back, but first of all I'm going to drill a hole, or attempt to drill a hole, where that line is pretty much in the middle of the picture, just above. And we're going to get that drilled, and then we can lineage all around it, make sure it's tidy, clean it all up. We're going to hoover it all up. You can just see the pedal box just above there. So I've got to clean that, tidy all that up, and then get some weld through primer on that, just ready for paint. So I've got a lot of tidying up to do in here. But that's the art fabrication. So guys, stay with us. I'm going to drill a hole, and then just start grinding and filling and tidying. I've got some extra special goggles on, so I'm going to look like something out of Marvel. Here we go. Okay, so I have cleaned off all this top back to bare metal, and I've rust treated it, drilled the hole, cleaned up all underneath. What it's all black is actually rust kill. I actually put and clean out an old spray bottle, pour it in, because you get better coverage and better value for money. And not only that, I've been able to squirt it into all the back areas behind, and obviously down through the actual bulkhead tubes as well. Really soaking everything through. So little top tip, put your rust kill in a spray bottle, and then you can spray it on and get it into all the nooks and crannies. So as you can see, it's all gone black. Yes, it looks minging and it's all running down. I've got to clean all that up, but then I can just put some filler over some of these bits now. I've got a little bit of welding to do. Again, it just stops any corrosion, and again, coming in around the gear linkage and the support brackets that we've put in. I've got a lot more tidying up to do. We're going to start on the engine bay because I'm going to let that dry so I can put some filler down. Then I'm going to get it all primed. Again, maybe not in this video, but we'll get it all cleaned up. I'm going to start on the engine bay and just start tidying that up so we can get some filler. So when we're mixing the filler, we can literally do all the filler at one point rather, and then sand it all back. So here we go. Now, that rust kill has dried an absolute treat. Still got a bit of drying to do. The centre is dry where the gear lever would normally come out, so just here. I'm going to fill this, and again, let me just remind you, I am no bodywork, I am no mechanic. This is just me having a go on my lovely Classic Mini, and I will make this thing look lovely, but I also don't want it rusty, and I want it to be solid, safe, and robust. So yeah, you got to make it worse before you make it better. But all those black bits, obviously where the exposed metal is, and yeah, that's made a real difference. So let's get the filler onto this tunnel. Okay, didn't bother time-lapsing it because I think you'd get bored, but anyway, we've sanded that down. We've sanded that up there. I'm going to get some, obviously everything is rust treated. We're going to get some just primer on here just to seal everything in, because I'm not quite sure when I'm going to get a chance to work on it again. And if we quickly jump underneath the bonnet, again, we've sanded, we've filled, I've sanded, got back to bare metal, rust treated it. Got to do a little bit more filling just in a few areas. I'm going to buff it all up and then we'll paint it again. Just got to sand that down. So you'll see it in a second with it all painted, pre-sanded, and looking lovely. So there we are, just a bit of light coating. I'm going to Gravitex the inside of the car anyway with green, so I just want to protect everything that's been done, so it's looking loads better. And as we go around to the bulkhead, that's looking so much better, albeit I've actually got 2 runs of the rust preserver that's come out of the bulkhead, because I've absolutely filled this up inside, hence with the squirty gun. Because also you're not dipping the contaminated brush back in the pot. Got a little bit of just I'm going to get some very fine putty and just do around this area, and there's some bits down around here I need to do, and then we can just feather that off. I'm going to Gravitex the lower part, and then I'm going to paint the top part, and that'll be it, all done. Obviously we've got to finish off the hole for the oil cooler. I've got the bracket. I've just had a mega tidy up just because it was absolutely getting horrendous out here. So I've got to do that, clean up all that, get ready for weld. So we are now literally ready for the next session of welding. Captive nuts on those 2 holes just there. That's where the brake reservoir is going to sit. Weld a strengthening plate on the back of here and drill that through. I've got a hole inside which I just need to weld up. Yeah, there's a bracket for the dash as well. So we're nearly getting there, guys. Nearly getting there for paint. Thank you for tuning in. Obviously do hit that like, hit that subscribe. Yeah, loving being back on the Mini. And we're going to make this thing look tip top. I'm going to get a bit carried away. Again, anybody got a roll cage with a diagonal split or can recommend a diagonal split, then obviously let me know, because I'm going to put a diagonal split in there, be it both ways or one way. That'll be pretty cool. Yeah, but yeah, this is proper stout now. All that dash rail is looking good. Cut the hole for the gear linkage. That's for the steering rack. That's for the engine mounts. Other than that, we're ready to go. Yeah, really pleased with that. And the hole just over there, that's for the wiring to go out into the inner wing. And there's a hole obviously just up the top there, which you just see, and that's where the captive nut's going to go on for the brake reservoir. This one here, we've got to get the wiper motor inside, so we've got to do some measuring for the linkage, but obviously this is just drying. Again, it is just surface coat before we then Gravitex it. It just seals in that rust door that we've put on, and obviously protected all the carbon on the doors. So guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe, but until next time we jump back on the bad boy Mini, we will see you soon.